Joe Rogan has gotten so popular, it is insane. I'm actually kind of surprised. Joe Rogan. Yeah, Joe Rogan destroyed the mainstream media. I feel like the mainstream media, by the way, destroyed itself. Yeah, it's not really Joe Rogan. It's just that people got alienated from mainstream media, and Joe Rogan was there to kind of be, their rebound, basically.
Joe Rogan's not a journalist. He's never claimed to be, nor has he ever tried to be. He seems to just be a man who likes talking to people and hearing their thoughts and topics that he doesn't know too much about.
Yep.
He's curious, often skeptical, and values truth, which is why he doesn't really take too kindly when people, especially news networks and journalists, start spreading lies. It's something CNN has been doing to him over the last few years, and nothing's more satisfying than watching Joe Rogan expose these people for what they truly are. Like with Joe's feud with the quote-unquote most trusted name in news, Don Lemon. It all began...
By the way, Don Lemon is the one who got taken off of CNN, and he was on Twitter for a while, but he got so much hate and so many people were shitting on him that he had to publicly announce that he was leaving Twitter.
During the pandemic,
yeah.
when Rogan revealed that he didn't see the point of getting a vaccine if you were young or healthy.
You're like 21 years old, and you say to me, should I get vaccinated? I go, no. Yeah. Are you healthy?
Ooh,
if you're
like
a healthy person and you're exercising all the time and you're young and you're eating well, and I don't think you need to worry about this.
Yeah. When he contracted the virus himself, he took to social media to let his followers know how he was treating it with a cocktail of different medications.
I forgot about this. So, oh my God. So they put Joe Rogan's video, I don't know if he's going to cover this, but the video that they posted of Joe Rogan on mainstream media, they put a color filter on him to make him look yellow. Yeah, bro, do you remember the filter?
CNN saw an opportunity to stir trouble.
Yeah, look at
In
this.
their report following Rogan's announcement, the network claimed that the drug he was using was meant for livestock before showing Rogan's initial video. Interestingly, the expert they brought in to discuss the drug doesn't once mention its use in livestock and only comments that it wasn't meant to treat viral infections, only parasites. But CNN didn't seem to care about this and went ahead with their claim that Rogan was taking a horse dewormer.
His statement.
And we all remember the horse dewormer. Everybody was saying this. Everybody was using this term. It was the horse dewormer incident is one of the reasons why people think the government is controlled by lizard people that live in the middle of the earth. Because it was as soon as one person said it, all of the media stations were running with this with seemingly no restrictions at all.
On social media, Rogan said he has taken several therapeutics to recover.
Turns out I got COVID. So we immediately threw the kitchen sink at it. All kinds of meds, monoclonal antibodies, ivermectin, Z-Pak, prednisone, everything.
One of those drugs he mentioned, ivermectin, is something more often used to deworm horses. CDC says there's no evidence it works on COVID. Its increased usage has only led to a substantial increase in overdoses after...
As I said, mainstream media and the government did irreparable damage to their reputation. I think it will take 20 years to recover it, if that. It was so bad.
Pushed by some on the far right, seeding vaccine misinformation.
Yeah, this is... And that's another thing is the whole far right thing. Oh my fucking God.
For people medicine, mother.
Understandably, Joe Rogan was baffled by CNN's attempts to make him seem like a nutcase, and in the podcast episode that followed, questioned whether he should be suing the network.
Well, if it isn't old horseworm Rogan.
Bro, do I have to sue CNN?
I don't know, do you?
They're making shit up. They keep saying I'm taking horse.
I do think that the media companies that just continuously spread lies, basically, as a media company and as a news agency, you have extra protections for defamation. But if you're not acting like a news company, then you shouldn't get the protections of a news company.
Horse dewormer. I literally got it from a doctor.
But he seems to be a rational man and decided that rather than start a battle with his news network, he would instead invite his chief medical officer, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, to the Joe Rogan Experience. Dr. Gupta admitted that his colleagues had lied and claimed that he didn't know why they had done it.
By the way, I remember this interview. This interview went so fucking hard. This was so perfect.
You that the news network you work for out and out lied.
Well, he got
outright
cooked.
Lied about me taking horse dewormer.
They shouldn't have said that.
Why did they do that?
I don't know.
You didn't ask? You
I-
didn't think that
I
was yours?
didn't-
You're the
I
medical
didn't-
guy over there.
I didn't ask. I should have asked before
they
coming
Well,
in.
here's the reason why he didn't ask. He didn't ask because speaking out against COVID and saying anything outside of the official accepted narrative that was it was basically, I'm pretty sure Scientology was less zealous than the COVID narrative. I mean, really, these people would put the Crusaders to shame. So yeah, of course he didn't want to speak out again. He didn't want to lose his fucking job.
It was
podcast.
such glee.
And the issue seemed to be resolved, and it was dawning that CNN was
Yep.
losing the battle against Joe Rogan, making enemies with one of the most influential men online. And so they weren't
Imagine an entire multi-million dollar, if not billion-dollar news network losing against one baldy in a basement. It's pretty fucking sad when you think about it.
going to back down this easily. So when Dr. Gupta appeared on Don
Of
Lemon's
course.
show shortly after Rogan's episode dropped, it was abundantly clear that the reporter really wasn't interested in anything that had really been said throughout the exchange between him and Rogan, and only wanted to ensure that Gupta renounced the idea that CNN had lied.
But he did say something about ivermectin that I think wasn't actually correct about CNN and lying, okay? Ivermectin is a drug that is commonly used as a horse dewormer. So it is not a lie to say that the drug is used as a horse.
This is why people hate the media. You categorized it as a horse dewormer. And then you are going to fall back onto a technicality that, yes, in some cases they do that. But when you introduce it and categorize it as a horse dewormer, then people are going to think that's what it's for.
Horse dewormer.
Rather than discuss the points that Joe Rogan had brought up, Lemon defended the network by doubling down on the fact that because ivermectin was used as a horse dewormer, no one had technically lied. Therefore,
And
no
that's what mainstream media is really good at. Mainstream media is really good at lying without lying. They're really good at misleading and misrepresenting things rather than just saying something that isn't true. Rarely does that happen where mainstream media just straight up lies. They just say something, it's red is blue. They usually don't do that, but they will lie by omission or they will lie by implication. And I think the reason why people have been fed up for it, it's again what I said yesterday about how lying through implication and lying through omission, what that really does is it insults the intelligence of the watcher. Because it's like, hey, you're so stupid, we're going to try to trick you into thinking this thing that isn't true is true because we want you to believe it.
could be proven wrong. Gupta confirmed Lemon's point, but when he tried to bring up the fact that Rogan was addressing claims that CNN had made about him specifically, the crux of the issue and the primary reason he had been invited to talk.
Look at that, bro. Look at his face here. Look at his face here. Look at this. The filter. Yes, bro. Like he's an undead. They washed him out on purpose. This is insane. He looks undead. Yes. They did him so dirty. Literally.
In the podcast, Lemon started talking over him.
I think that's important, and it is not approved for COVID. Correct?
That's right. Now, I think what Joe's point
That
is...
it has been
is
approved
that
for
it's-
humans, but not necessarily for.
They are. I don't know if they will ever recover from this. I'm really not sure.
COVID, right? Yeah.
It's almost comical watching the network try to assert that they're a highly credible source of information with years of articles to prove it, all while refusing to even acknowledge that they'd made a mistake.
For quote, bruising the ego. Despite his groveling. You see like how this is the... What's really sad about it is that we need journalism, and you need to have people that are ethical and fair and honest. And so we can't, like, in a way, like, we can't just say, like, oh yeah, let's just not have journalism. But I feel like that's the way a lot of people feel with this. Won't happen? Yeah, remove their protection. I think that you don't even need to do that at this point, because the market the market has solved this problem itself. Why do you think all these people in these mainstream media places are getting fired? Why do you think they're all losing their jobs? It's because nobody's watching it anymore, and the advertisers that pay for the news station to exist aren't getting the conversion that they want. That's the truth. The market is correcting, and people are watching the Baldy in the basement a lot more than CNN.
Tell a very blatant lie, and Rogan was having none of it. During his next episode, he hammered CNN and dismissed their every attempt at maintaining credibility. He started by pointing out the idiocy and demonizing him, and the medications that he was taking. Rogan went on to poke holes in them.
It was really weird how in 2021, I think that if this hadn't happened, Rogan probably wouldn't have endorsed Trump. And I hope that people can look back in like the kind of like the domino effect of this and how it served to radicalize him and push him away from the left. Because like, for example, like Joe Rogan was a huge fan of Bernie Sanders. Really? Yeah, I think so. I think that I can't say whether it would have happened or not, but I think that for sure we can all agree that it probably made it a lot more likely. Radicalized? Well, I think it did. Yeah.
Logic.
They're making shit up. They keep saying I'm taking horse dewormer. I literally got it from a doctor.
Yeah.
It's an American company.
Mm-hmm.
They won the Nobel Prize in 2015 for use in human beings.
Showing that the issue wasn't that they lied about the medication, but in the way they showed him trying to take this
Look at the yellow. Look at the yellow, bro. Like, this is in Tirisfal Glades. He's a level 5 undead warrior.
medication.
They try to make it seem as if like I'm doing some wacky shit that's completely ineffective. And
Right. Yeah.
CNN was saying that I'm a distributor of misinformation.
Oh,
First of all, it's
God.
like you called your dealer. You had it prescribed, right? So when they say it's not approved, it's not like you are using your own judgment. You're using the judgment of a medical professional, which is what they've been yelling for a year and a half. Listen to the experts.
Rogan was showing that they weren't
No, you don't listen to the experts. You listen to their experts.
making these claims to protect vulnerable viewers, but there was something more at play.
It's about obedience, because they're the ones who are promulgating how everyone has to act. And then you have this guy from Austin over here, this comedian, telling people there was another way and the science isn't as settled. And all of a sudden, their sense of authority is diminished, because when you have choices, that means that person who wants to be the one to go to no longer is the one who has all the answers.
Exactly, because and this is also another reason that that guy made a really good point. It's that if other people are coming up with solutions, then it damages mainstream media's credibility for having like a monopoly on information.
They say things that are absolutely untrue. It diminishes their authority.
Don Lemon didn't seem to realize that he was taking on someone with 10 times the
And
influence.
what's crazy about it is that, we can now look at this in retrospect. Don Lemon is off CNN. CNN's ratings are terrible. Nobody watches CNN anymore. People hate them. And Joe Rogan is more popular than ever. And people say that he was instrumental in making Donald Trump win the presidency. Like, that's a clean fucking sweep, bro. It's not even close.
CNN thought it had. And CNN's fixations with Rogan and their insistence on making him the bad guy is almost more reflective of the network's ideals than anything else. It felt like a desperate attempt to draw the audience's attention away from the numerous scandals they were dealing with at the time.
Yep.
CNN had drawn the lines in the sand, and Rogan was happy to meet that challenge.
They're lying at your network about people taking human drugs versus drugs for veterinary.
Calling it a horse dewormer is not a flattering thing. I get
It's
that.
a lie. It's a lie on a news
Well,
network.
that's the problem, is that it's not a lie. It's an intentional misrepresentation with a goal of misleading the audience. That's the worst thing that happens. Like, I hate lying to people. And so I know very well how to mislead people. That's what I'm really good at. It's a lie. I consider that a lie. I think that, so this is my opinion. If you communicate to somebody with the intention of making them believe something that's not true, you have lied to them, even if the words that you said were not false because of you have a malicious intent behind you. It is lie adjacent, but it is, to be fair, it is not technically a lie.
Work, and it's a lie that's a willing.
Yep.
That's a lie that they're conscious of. It's not a mistake.
He frequently called out the network's lies, but the main issue is with a few select reporters, one of which being Brian Stelter. Now that CNN had apparently declared an all-out war against Rogan and his ideals, Brian Stelter...
Joe Rogan's complaint about woke culture could be a ploy to grow his audience. Well, Baldy, I guess it worked. Crazy to look back on this. Fucking retard, I know. Yeah, it worked.
Decided it was his turn to take a shot at the comic.
So we just talked about CNN's ratings, under 450,000 viewers, and then the average Joe Rogan episode gets 11 million downloads, at least according to the latest.
Oh, come on. You can't do apples and bananas like that. And with CNN...
To be fair, Baldy here is right. You're comparing average live viewers versus... what do you call it? Versus like the amount of total views. Baldy is correct.
Tens of millions of viewers a month. I think that's a healthy place to be. And that's, I think...
Tens of millions of viewers a month. You know what that reminds me of? My Clips channel. Am I CNN? Like, we have like 2 or 3 channels that get that many views. Like... The guy that makes these videos, Moon, gets that many views. What are we talking about?
Fairer comp to Joe Rogan, where, Rogan obviously has a big fan base. But if you were to look at how many people are listening to him this hour, it wouldn't be nearly as big. And so that would be,
And in turn, earned himself...
I actually think that what he just said there is accurate and true. But because of people's lack of literacy of understanding how media statistics work, he's going to be seen as the guy in the wrong. What he said actually was true there.
Bit of a reputation as a complainer. He covered a clip from Rogan's podcast
he was
in which the host is discussing how dangerous quote-unquote...
But he's wrong because he's bald. Oh, God.
Culture and cancel culture can be. He was concerned with people being silenced. So Brian Stelter took to TV.
Well, here's another really big component of this that the video hasn't covered yet. I don't know if it will. Is that this was in concert with a massive massive effort to deplatform Joe Rogan completely. And people were leaving Spotify, like other artists were leaving Spotify. And they were trying to pressure Spotify to remove Joe Rogan's contract and to push him off of YouTube as well for these interviews. So it's not like this was like just a disagreement of, whether it's a horse dewormer or not. This was something that was charged with a goal of deplatforming him and destroying his influence because they didn't want to see somebody who could be oppositional to them gain a foothold in the space. Even Neil Young tried to threaten leave Spotify. I thought Neil Young did leave Spotify. I'm pretty sure he did, didn't he? Huh. That's crazy. I just come crawling back, bro. Please let me come back, bro. Come on, man. I was just kidding. I didn't mean it. I wasn't trying to say nothing. Yeah, crazy how money will do that. Yeah, that's right. But keep in mind, he tried to do that. His goal was to have Joe Rogan deplatformed. That was his goal. Now, he was too stupid and meaningless for that goal to be accomplished. But that was still his goal.
Spending his whole report essentially whining about Americans trusting the Joe Rogan experience more than his network and mocking his stances.
The hugely popular podcast host causing days of chatter by saying that straight white men...
You can tell he's so mad. Like, listen to the way he's speaking. He's so mad.
hugely popular podcast host, causing days of chatter by saying that straight white men are the targets of woke culture.
Well, that's crazy because there's a lot of people that agree with that now.
Eventually get to straight white men are not allowed to talk.
He also called Rogan's ideas on counterculture,
which, by the way, happened,
pervasive.
The fear about woke culture, about an overreaction, is pervasive, especially in right-wing media.
Brian Stelter seemed to be...
It was so pervasive, it won them the entire election. Too bad, Baldy. Maybe you can go do DoorDash.
Incredibly condescending, trying to play himself off as the superior person by bringing up issues he deems more important. It's his tone of voice and the way he talks about Joe Rogan that really makes it unbearable to watch.
Yeah.
Now, as for Rogan's recent comments, on one level it's just comical. Hearing this rich and famous guy express worries that even though he's paid to talk for a living, he's going to be silenced in the future.
And whilst...
Yeah. Because, you know, he's just... Jesus, man, what an idiot. What is this guy doing nowadays? Is he still at CNN? Who is this guy? Who is this fucking guy? Like, this is insane. So condescending. Yeah, like, what is it? Where's he coming from?
Brian Stelter no doubt saw this as a giant smackdown of Joe Rogan. Others saw the hit piece as just jealousy. While Stelter is a relatively successful journalist, he's not nearly as well known.
This picture was from a long time ago.
As Rogan, so when he tried to claim that Rogan's comments were a ploy to grow his own audience, no one could take him that seriously.
Rogan's woke culture complaint could be a ploy to grow his audience. Yeah, bro, people are trying to leech off of you.
Of course, Joe Rogan wasn't too pleased about Brian Stelter's summation of his character, and immediately started firing back. He began by highlighting the fact that Brian Stelter was a terrible journalist with an even worse show.
Joe Rogan ripped CNN's Brian Stelter for a fucking terrible show.
Referencing his interview with the White House press secretary Jen Psaki, during which he basically asked her what journalists were doing wrong.
For other PR professionals who watch what you do, for journalists who watch what you do, what's your advice for them about trying to stay close to the truth in this world of lies?
It seemed just so uninteresting in networking, more than any real journalism. But Brian Stelter didn't seem to recognize this.
He's just a glazer, man. That's it. He's just trying to say the right thing to the right people and be the good boy. That's all.
He seemed shocked when CNN cancelled his show, Reliable Sources.
That's what you get. Ooh, that's what happens. Humpty Dumpty cracked? Yeah.
Rogan had pointed out that he couldn't be mad that the market had reflected truths he didn't want to listen to. As the two men continued to butt heads, or in reality, Brian Stelter continuing to try and look down his nose.
Yeah, bro. Now he's in his house. He's podcasting now.
Rogan, his exposés never seemed to work, and instead, Brian Stelter was really just exposed by Joe Rogan himself.
Yeah,
but Brian wasn't.
I don't even think Joe Rogan exposed him. I think he exposed himself. This is the kind of, it's like the old fucking thing, never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake. And this guy's mistake was opening his fucking mouth. Like, that's it. Yeah, he didn't, Joe Rogan didn't need to do anything.
After this back and forth between CNN and Rogan, more journalists would join the bandwagon. As most often happens when people are pushing for the cancellation of a specific celebrity, someone went for Rogan's past and started circulating a compilation of him using the N-word.
Oh my god, do you remember back in like 2020 whenever people pretended to care about this? Oh my god. It was so exhausting where everybody had to pretend like they gave a shit about this. Oh my god.
20 times. CNN now had the perfect ammunition it was looking for. During their next few reports, Stelter and Acosta spent most of their time telling Spotify that it had to drop Joe Rogan if it wanted to avoid cancellation or completely failing. Talking as if
cancellation. Wow.
They knew Joe Rogan would lose his multi-million-dollar contract.
Yep, see, they're trying to do whatever they can.
Is now apologizing, and we're going to find out if that's enough for Spotify, the company that has an exclusive distribution deal with him. Jim, this is all coming to light because of the recent controversy about
See, this is one of the things that a lot of people don't like to acknowledge, is that you can get away with anything as long as you're popular enough. It doesn't matter, like, if you say the N-word. It doesn't matter if you kill somebody. It doesn't matter if you're a terrible person. It doesn't matter if you're a racist. None of this stuff matters. If you're popular enough, none of these companies actually care about these problems at all. And all they're doing is responding to the market.
Vaccine rhetoric on Rogan's podcast.
Influencers and celebrities have all lost their positions for far less, and the two men seem very sure that the same thing would finally happen to Rogan. Specifically, Brian Stelter, who sounded
look at this rat, bro. He actually tried to do, like, what a nasty bitch. What a nasty fucking bitch. Oh my God.
particularly smug about the whole situation, gleefully waiting for his downfall.
And there are many examples, including in Hollywood and entertainment, where people have lost their roles for less than this, and that may be why Spotify is being so quiet.
And they seem to be fully aware of how damaging cancel culture can be.
Well, that's why they did it. They did it because they wanted to cancel him. That was their goal.
Even tried to inspire their audience to rally against Spotify and Rogan by asking
Here we go.
anyone with minor influence about the situation. The only problem was they'd severely overestimated their power.
These videos have surfaced of him using
and this is one of the worst things that you can do is to try to bite somebody and then they realize that you don't have any teeth, because then they'll never be afraid of you ever again, and it destroys your credibility and your the fear that you have. Like, that's what happens is, like, if you try to go after somebody and you can't do it, it makes you look like a loser.
Multiple times on his podcast.
The reporters were so desperate to try and turn the world against Rogan that they were creating a cartoonish character of Joe that just didn't exist.
That's what's so crazy is everybody, like, it's crazy how people like Joe Rogan have been like this guy was supposed to be like a major right-wing guy. Cancel culture is awful. Well, it's actually not cancel culture, it's control culture. And what these people want to do is they want to be able to systematically remove every incentive that you have for making content so they can silence you and make you not able to speak your mind so they can keep saying what they believe. And that's really what they do. That's what the actual goal is.
Would spend thousands of hours listening to his
political,
podcast, they could pretty easily see Joe Rogan's character from the screen. It was very clear to almost everyone that they were blatantly twisting the narrative of the situation to make it seem like Rogan was in a worse position than was true. According to CNN,
people, by the way, in a much lesser extent, people tried to do that with me. Like when I got banned, everybody was trying to do that shit to me. Like, people are constantly talking shit about me, hating on me, saying I was this terrible person, etc. And which time? Yeah, I just came back and I did the exact same stuff. And I'm going to be honest. I think I'm even worse now. I am. I think that the kind of stuff and the things that I cover now, because like I don't have to worry about sponsors anymore. So I can just I can talk about anything. I don't give a fuck. So now, like, yeah, it backfired. It did. And it literally, like, I'm not even kidding you, like on YouTube, like 2x'd my viewership. Very good day for me. Yep. Very good day for me. How about that? Wow. You've been making much clearer arguments? Yeah, I think I fucked up earlier today with like explaining that like affirmative action thing. But otherwise, I mean, I've been trying to be more clear with what I'm saying.
Spotify had deleted several past episodes of the Joe Rogan Experience and was debating whether or not to let him go.
Now, listeners have noticed that several dozen episodes have been taken down. Apparently, those are the episodes that we've heard the clips from today. So Spotify might be on a cleanup mission trying to erase some of Rogan's past. But will the company continue to stand by him? That's an open question. We've not heard back.
But in reality, it seemed like Joe was the one who had deleted the videos and had the full support of Spotify's CEO throughout the entire ordeal. He was actually relieved that the video popped up because it allowed him to address a few things about his past that he wasn't so proud of and apologize for his previous mistakes.
Now, I know that to most people, there's no context where...
See, people don't actually want an apology. What they want is capitulation. And an apology is a way that you capitulate, but that's not all of what it is. And this is what people got really mad at me for, too. It's because I put out a video and I apologized for stuff, and people thought that I was going to come back and be like, playing Concord and talking about how good DEI in video games was. And then they got really mad. They said, wow, he's not doing that. They want a victory. Well, they want you to stop thinking for yourself, and they want you to say what they want you to say. That's it. So many comments said bent the knee. Yeah, exactly. And I wonder how they're feeling now. Like, yeah, probably not so good. Actually, probably great. Because I'm doing what they want.
Say that word, never mind publicly on a podcast. And I agree with that now. I haven't said it in years, but for a long time, when I would bring that word up, like if it would come up in conversation, instead of saying the N word, I would just say the word.
Yeah,
I thought as long as it was in context, people would understand what I was doing.
Much to CNN's surprise, Spotify kept Rogan on its platform, and it seems like Joe and Spotify's partnership has been going great. CNN couldn't believe this and refused to accept his apology, continuing to try and frame him as a racist, as the journalists at CNN couldn't seem to wrap their heads around how Rogan had managed to survive a cancellation attempt, or why people would prefer to watch him than their professional journalism. Tim Acosta was particularly adamant about CNN.
Because it's not professional, that's the reason why. The reason why these people are crying about this is the fact that they did the only thing that they can do, and it didn't work. Like, the only real power that these people have is being able to cancel you. So that's the reason why they don't want people to be self-funded, and that's the reason why they don't want people to... They want people to have advertisers. They want people to have a network that they're under, so they can pressure the network and pressure the advertisers into suppressing their speech. Yeah, they ulted and failed. Yeah, bro, they ulted and it missed.
Me, it seems untenable to have that kind of video surface, that kind of compilation surface, and keep one's job.
When Spotify failed to drop Rogan as a...
No, here's the reason why. Nobody gives a fuck. Nobody cares. That's the reason why it happened. They're upset too. Yeah, they don't care. Like, nobody gives a fuck about this.
Partner, Acosta decided to try and guilt people into not listening to his podcast, saying it was just filled with quote-unquote locker room talk.
Yeah, that's why they watch it. That's the whole point. That's the reason why they watch it, yeah. It's that simple. Invite Iris to Texas for her birthday? I think you're a bit late. Nick's stream starts in the morning. Yeah, like, so usually he'll be live by like 10, 11. Like, it's 3 right now. So just get on next time a little bit earlier. And,
Rogan didn't even have to respond to these claims for people to see that the source of Acosta's attacks was just a thinly veiled contempt for the podcaster's success.
Oh, exactly.
As his podcast is everything the network wishes it could be. It was
Spotify credits podcast popularity for 24% in growth in subscribers. And old Baldy here thought he was going to get Joe Rogan kicked off. Oh, God.
Kind of rigidity and abject hate that eventually cost both Acosta's and Stelter's jobs at CNN. When the...
Damn, bro. Ooh. Ooh, wow. They're going to have to go to DoorDash. They're going to go do Uber Eats. Maybe just go do Lyft. How about that? Reflect damage? Yeah.
Company tried to rebrand itself as
put the fries in the bag. Yeah.
The quote-unquote objective network. However, eventually after a couple of years, Stelter would get his job back. But just because these journalists...
I'm sure they're paying him the same amount too.
Kicked out of CNN didn't mean they would stop hating on Rogan. They continued talking his podcast down, and even claimed the network is comparable to the Joe Rogan experience in terms of views.
It's comparable? Wow, that's so impressive. Your billion-dollar company gets as many views as a bald guy in his basement in Austin, Texas. Wow. That's incredible. Good job, guys. Keep it up. Wow.
Joe Rogan no longer held any respect for either of these journalists, and just mocked them whenever their names popped up, going so far as to question their integrity after Stelter hosted a disinformation panel at the World Economic...
Disinformation panel at the World Economic Forum? Oh...
Forum in Davos.
Bro... That's like the main base of operations for the lizards.
2023, with Joe just calling him basically a prostitute, and remarking that he was probably very excited just to be working again in any way, shape, or form.
Brian Stelter's now at the World Economic Forum. What can we do about these problems?
He looked very comfortable there, didn't he?
Of course he does. He's
Yeah,
with
he is.
evil lizard people that are
Everybody knows. See, like, the thing, everybody fucking knows it. Everybody knows this shit. He said
trying
it,
to control
yeah.
the world. That's his bosses. He knows how to handle that kind of situation. I've been around these evil lizard people.
Well, he's probably very excited just to be working again in any way, shape, or form.
That's true.
You know, I mean, he's not a guy that really is supposed to be in front of a camera, right? He's supposed to be a journalist. But he's not even good at that. So what he's doing now is holding water for the evil leaders of the world who want to institute hate speech policies nationwide and centralized digital currency, and they want everybody to eat bugs, and because he's basically a prostitute.
You'll earn nothing.
These journalists
and
only
you'll be happy.
strengthened Rogan's summation of them. And while CNN's feud with Rogan was really entertaining, people just didn't seem to understand why they had so much hate for him. If they're covering the news, why were they so focused on this and not more important matters? And what's hilarious,
because they don't cover the news, they sell advertising, and they sell advertising by putting it next to news. And if there's somebody else that's putting more advertising next to the same news that they are, well, maybe they might lose out on the advertising.
about all of this is that CNN changing its tune would undeniably actually save the network. America's in need of a real truthful news organization, but unfortunately they completely screwed this up. People value objective perspectives on big issues that allow the public to form their own opinions, and they're just not getting that from CNN, no matter how much the network tries to claim otherwise. Not even their own audience can take their claims seriously anymore, as was proved.
Journalism. Why is CNN's reputation declining while MSNBC and Fox continue to thrive? I'll tell you the reason why in this circumstance. It's because MSNBC and Fox cater to, basically, they don't pretend to be unbiased as much as CNN does. MSNBC is a liberal, it's a liberal news station, everybody fucking knows that. Fox is a conservative news station, everybody fucking knows that. They're playing to their audience. CNN is trying to court people that are looking for an objective take on things, but they're no longer objective. So the one thing that they had, because you go back in time. Let's go back a little bit in time. Back in the day, CNN was supposed to be in the middle. And I would want to go, I would go to CNN if I wanted to know what was actually going on. I wouldn't go to Fox. I wouldn't go to MSNBC. I'd want to go to CNN. Now you don't. So I was the target audience, and I'm not there anymore. It's that simple.
When Stephen Colbert's audience laughed when he called the network objective.
I know you guys are objective over there, that you just report the news as it is. Oh, I know. CNN makes a
fucking based. And you can tell because the laughs were not synchronous. You can tell that they didn't put the light on that said please laugh or please clap. Because it was one guy that laughed and then everybody else was like, okay, yeah, it's okay to laugh. Yeah, those are the real ones.
I know
was that supposed to be a laugh line?
I wasn't supposed to be, but
yeah,
I guess it is.
They've made a massive joke out of
why.
themselves through clear biases and various scandals. But still, rather than take accountability, they try to turn the attention to someone else, but unfortunately they pick Rogan. And Joe Rogan doesn't pull any punches. And remarkably, CNN's not the only news network that decided to pick a losing battle. As I mentioned earlier, MSNBC tried to start their own war with Rogan, and soon discovered that they bit off a bit more than they could chew. In August, a TikTok from MSNBC began circulating the internet.
They're trying so... Oh my god, I remember this. Holy shit, this was so stupid. Oh.
The video was captioned, Joe Rogan predicts Harris will win the presidency, and featured Rogan seemingly endorsing the vice president, praising her as a strong woman and deeming her everything a person could want for a president.
She's gonna win.
No, she's not.
She can win. I feel like we are in this very bizarre time where people are giving in to the bullshit in a way that I never suspected people would before. And this is one, they just want no Trump, no matter what, and they're willing to gaslight themselves. They think that
And by the way, I think Hillary could win. If Hillary jumped back in...
I've been saying that for months.
If Hillary jumped back in...
They should have had Michelle Obama. She would have actually won. Bring in Big Mike.
People were confused, as not even a month before the TikTok was posted, Rogan had pointed out that the vice president was incredibly unpopular before she even started running for president.
I just can't imagine the United States wants President Kamala Harris. I don't think anybody wants that.
He was right. That turned out that was true.
Nobody wants that. I mean, maybe some people would prefer that over President Trump, but nobody wants that.
His sudden change didn't make any sense, and it turns out, MSNBC actually faked the video. Someone had taken clips from Rogan's interview with Michael Malice in July, and edited it up so it seemed like he was actually endorsing Harris. It was pretty ironic, given that during the episode, the two men had discussed the fact that many news outlets were gaslighting their audiences, by portraying the vice president as America's hero and making it near impossible to find any bad press about her, when just a
That's true, bro. Like they really tried as hard as they could to get her. They did. They tried so hard. But in the end, it didn't even matter.
A few months prior, they'd actually called her the worst vice president in history.
Well, this is like master gaslighting and propaganda is what it is. So everybody forever was like, Kamala Harris is the worst vice president. She's the least popular.
I feel like maybe it's like they just wanted to release the Diddy list early, and it was just everybody that went to her rallies. All of the celebrities.
Vice president.
Like the moment that Usher deleted all of his tweets, and then like 2 or 3 days later, he's at a Kamala Harris rally, I'm like, I bet this is gonna radicalize people. I bet this is gonna get people to go to InfoWars. Yeah, this is what sends people to InfoWars.
Of all time, and then in a moment in time, all of a sudden she's our solution. She's our hero. Yep. Everybody's with her. All these social media posts about her. Yep. Try Googling a negative story on her. You won't find one.
So...
Ta-da!
Okay,
the praise that Rogan was actually giving out was to former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. The UFC commentator had praised her as a strong woman of color with years of...
That's right, yeah. He was praising somebody that wasn't even Kamala Harris, yeah. Oh my God.
...military service under a belt and use these points to highlight the fact...
Hey guys, I know a lot of y'all are trying to tell me about that Starship thing. I'm going to finish the video, then we're going to watch it, okay?
The Democrat Party had rejected her as a presidential candidate because she was unwilling to roll over and play the same game Harris had for so many years.
Bro, she took her completely out of the race. Like Tulsi Gabbard, like whenever she said that shit about Kamala Harris cackling about putting people in jail for weed.
You can also note that Tulsi is rarely mentioned in political discussions involving Harris, and theorized that this was probably because anytime the two women got into a debate, Tulsi made the then senator look like a fool.
So in 2019, our pal Tulsi absolutely nuked her in that second debate. And if you looked at charts at the time, she's kind of, Officer Harris is like doing okay. First debate she comes out, Joe Biden, you're a racist. The Democrats were looking for
Joe Biden's a racist. It's crazy how things change, huh?
Alternative to Bernie Sanders that wasn't Biden. She starts going up in the polls, right?
Yeah.
Second debate comes out. Tulsi, being a good Hawaiian, knows how to roast the pig. Just completely slams her. Not only that, she has no counterpunch. She goes on Anderson Cooper and she's like, well, I'm a top tier candidate, so of course people are going to take shots at me. That's her answer. She immediately starts going down in the polls. It's that day. You can see it on the chart I have on my Twitter. All the articles at the time that did an autopsy on Kamala Harris's failed campaign didn't mention Tulsi once.
The former Congress,
because they don't want to say it. The thing is, like, a lot of these people think that if you never mention the problem, then it doesn't exist. That's the mindset.
This woman would actually ask Harris a question or accuse her of something terrible, like keeping prisoners in jail longer than their sentence for free labor. And the vice president...
Oops!
seemed incapable of giving a straight answer. Instead, she would bring up something irrelevant and try to move past the accusations without ever addressing them.
Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president.
And that's the other thing is, like, she can't, the reason why this works so well is because she can't act like she's getting bullied for being a woman. Like, that's 100% a huge factor. Absolutely. And, like, she couldn't do that. Oh,
But I'm deeply concerned about this record. She put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California.
I did the work of significantly reforming the criminal justice system of a state of 40 million people, which became a national model for the work that needs to be done. And I am proud of that work. And I am proud of making a decision to not just give fancy speeches or be in a legislative body and give speeches on the floor, but actually doing the work of being in the position to use the power that I had to reform a system that is badly in need of reform.
Many of these accusations would have gotten anyone else cancelled, but Kamala Harris seems to have gotten a get-out-of-jail-free card. And then when Gabbard had heard what MSNBC had done,
Well, the reason why is she didn't get a get-out-of-jail-free card. Like, Joe Biden threw her a life raft because she was at like 1%. Nobody wanted her. Nobody gave a fuck about her. She was done.
Ran to X to share her thoughts on the matter. She demanded that the outlet apologize for the post before accusing it of violating the laws of the Federal Elections Commission.
Furthermore, it's another violation of FEC law by failing to report their propaganda as a contribution to Kamala's campaign. What a surprise. Wow.
All to spread lies and failing to report the propaganda as a contribution to Harris's campaign.
Not sure if you guys caught this, but MSNBC was exposed today for yet another set of lies.
Wow.
They deceptively edited together this video of different Joe Rogan comments to make it appear that he was singing the praises of Kamala Harris. This is not reflective at all of the truth of what Joe Rogan said. And I think MSNBC has since taken this post down. But what's really serious here is that not only does Joe Rogan deserve an apology, there's actually something far bigger at stake here. This is yet another example of how MSNBC is working hand in glove with the Democrat elite and the Kamala Harris campaign to try to spread lies, simply things that are not true.
Many were sure that Rogan would sue the outlet over the misinformation and started reporting that he wanted $30 million from MSNBC in damages. But the podcast host later revealed in an episode with Andrew Huberman that he never actually had any plans of suing. He was really—
You know why he doesn't have any plans of suing? It's because in order to sue them for like defamation, he has to prove that they lost money because of it. And MSNBC is so fucking irrelevant, they couldn't do any damage to be sued for damages. That's the real reason.
Just worried about casual viewers who would see the blatantly twisted clip and assume that it was his genuine opinion on the matter.
This has gotten so popular that my stepdad contacted me to tell me he's happy that I'm suing MSNBC.
Yeah, of course. Give me a sec. Hello? Yeah. Okay. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye. Okay, got it. All right, yeah, bye. My dad called to tell me to stop interrupting the video because the launch is in 10 minutes. He doesn't want to miss it.
I'm not suing MSNBC. But this is what MSNBC did. They took a clip of me talking about Tulsi Gabbard.
Yep.
And they edited it up and made it look like I was saying great things about Kamala Harris.
His whole incident further emphasized his opinion that media outlets only care about portraying news through a very specific narrative and not the truth. Like the recent Donald Trump assassination attempt, many news outlets that were biased made their feelings abundantly clear about the event. Rather than report the situation for what it was, many just—
I actually think this was okay. I know this might be an unpopular opinion, but I think it was okay for them not to say that there were shots fired until they were absolutely certain. I was.
claimed that loud popping noises had startled Trump off of the stage, and CNN even claimed that the Secret Service had actually rushed him off because he fell. After facing backlash, these outlets were no longer able to deny the fact that Trump had been shot. They eventually had to change their initial articles, but it was a blatant denial of the truth. However, those in support of Kamala couldn't allow the attempted assassination to continue circling the news, so they would do everything they could to bury it. Rogan was struck by how quickly such a significant event was swept under the rug and forgotten about, remarking how the attempt wasn't even the first result to show up on Google
admits to limiting searches about Trump. That's crazy.
He searched Donald Trump's name shortly after the incident.
Wow. I thought that Trump getting shot would that's it, election's over.
Well, it was, to be fair.
Memory hold that so quick?
You would have thought Trump getting shot would have had 8 years of corporate journalists talking about hate speech causing violence to be like, let's take a step back. And that went for what, a week?
They did take a step back
for
a little bit.
For a week.
And then they went right back at him.
You want to talk about this memory holding?
Yeah.
With the insanity of the who's that? That was Elon who put up, like, if you Google President Donald, it says President Donald Reagan.
No, I tried it.
What happened?
Maybe they fixed it. It said President Donald Trump.
Okay. Well, he had a screenshot, so I'm sure
Yeah,
he
no,
photoshopped
Donald Reagan.
I mean, it's based on a lot of things, right? Like what people are searching for.
Oh, God.
I would imagine that the assassination attempt on Trump would be the first one that you would see.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Assassination attempt on President.
Right.
It'd be Trump because
Imagine
that's
that.
the most recent.
Yes.
But it's not.
And most newsworthy.
It doesn't even matter who you support in the election, but any sort of interference like this could be a risk towards democracy. And Rogan seems to have never really cared about people having different opinions. In fact, he's made an entire career out of talking to anyone and everyone. So many people who don't share his own views. But what he does care about is whether these opinions are based on truth, as he's been burnt by misleading headlines before. So his main concern throughout this whole incident was for casual viewers who didn't know much about Rogan and his opinions past headlines. He specifically brought up boomers who are set in their ways and often believe whatever's printed because they've grown up with the idea that the media never lies. And
It's also that they don't have anything to counter it with. A lot of people aren't, like, older people and people that are less media savvy, they're not looking for like 3 different references for something. They're just going to hear something and then be like, oh, I guess that's what's true. That's it.
For haven't learned to differentiate between the truth and information that might have been manipulated, all to better suit the story of a journalist. Which is why Joe Rogan, like many of us, has very little respect for the media, who are more interested in earning clicks through misleading information than trying to figure out what's really right and wrong.
And removing the dislike bar.
At what point do you think the general public will come to understand that this is the way that a lot of things that they see out there are constructed, to some degree or another, and stop actually believing it?
It depends on
2024. We found out
who the public is. That this is the issue right now with boomers. Right?
We
Old
know now.
Liberals in particular. All they do is watch the news and read the newspaper, and whatever's printed, they believe. And it's very difficult to get them to consider, like, hey, maybe someone's lying. Maybe there's propaganda campaigns. Maybe there's like this widespread media narrative that they're pushing because corporations are behind it and advertising is behind it, and they're figuring out a way to manipulate the public opinion on things. It's very hard to get old boomers to believe that, because they're old, okay? So they're set in their ways. Their mind.
Nobody wants to admit that they were wrong.
That's
the reason why.
You know, I am a liberal. I'm a Democrat. I've been a Democrat my whole life.
Nobody
This is
wants
how I
to
feel about
accept
these
they're
issues.
wrong.
This is my community. This is my tribe. These are my people. And the news says this, and I'm with them. And oh, great, we're up in the polls now. And for
What a
them,
surprise.
it's like they're on a team. It might as well be the Dolphins versus the Raiders. It's the same
He's 100%
kind of
right.
mentality in their head. And
Politics have turned into sports completely.
they don't want to be challenged. That little part of their brain that exists when you challenge yourself and do things you don't want to do, that just shriveled up to almost nothing.
While it's still unclear whether he's suing MSNBC or not, he had no issue telling the outlet they had said a gross lie.
Yeah.
And I think someone that's willing to do something like that, that's a real offense. It's a real offense. It's not a small thing. It's a real lie. And it's a lie that changes other people's opinion. You take what's perceived to be an influential person and you distort their views in either way to shame them, make them look bad, or to promote someone else. Like, that's a real lie. That's a dangerous lie. It's a real offense. And I think that there's no laws against that right now. It's except libel law. I mean, you could take.
Well, there are, but it's just that the media has exceptions in the laws. And they use those exceptions to their advantage to lie with impunity.
But
that's the reason why they do it.
It's a real bad thing. It's a real gross lie.
However, despite all the media coverage surrounding the incident and public criticism, MSNBC has yet to apologize for the TikTok clip. All they've done so far is change the video to better reflect what was actually said during the interview, and say only in the caption of the video, mind you, that they actually made a correction. At no point was there any acknowledgement of their blatant misrepresentation of Rogan's opinions. Unfortunately, other news outlets haven't learned from this incident, and are still going out of their way to make it look
like... They will never learn because they're playing for all the marbles. If they lose this, then they lose their entire business model.
Rogan is showering
That's
Kamala
the reason
Harris
why.
with praise. Shortly after MSNBC's post and correction, the Daily Mail had decided it was their turn and posted a similar TikTok.
If you got something to say,
Damn.
Did you think
that alone can get you the president. We're in idiocracy. That alone, that is
get a couple
very,
banger sound bites, right?
You can't say that's not outstanding.
Totally.
She just crushed it.
Their video claimed that the podcast host was gushing about the vice president's speech in Atlanta and declaring that she'd crushed it. It's like people have completely forgotten the concept of sarcasm. Hilariously, in the clip used, Rogan even mentions Idiocracy, a movie we've spoken about before on the channel. All of this really isn't a great look for America.
It's sad, man. It really is.